Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 10 a.m. I know we have a lot of people joining us this morning. I hope y'all can hear me and see our welcome slide for making careers matter in middle school. So we're going to go ahead and begin. Thank you so much for joining us for our monthly webinar series. Our topic for the month of March is making careers matter in middle school. And we know there's a strong interest in early college and career preparation starting in the middle school grades because we have over 175 educators from across the state of Texas that have registered for this webinar this morning. So welcome everyone. If you're watching the recording, we're glad you were able to join us later on. And we really hope this is valuable in your work with students. So we have quite a few resources to spotlight and share with you in today's webinar that will support your efforts in delivering this kind of instruction in the middle school grades. As many of you know, Texas OnCourse was charged by the Texas legislature in 2015 to create college and career readiness curriculum for this age group. And we continue to revise and refine everything that we create and deliver. So today we'll highlight curriculum lessons that you can implement in the classroom to develop students' investigative skills into career clusters and pathways. And we'll also see useful videos from Roadtrip Nation to supplement your teaching and advising practices, and also learn about how to close the gaps by meeting the needs of our middle school students from the Texas Workforce Commission. So for all of our attendees, you'll receive a follow-up email with highlights from the webinar and a link to access the recording. And we also post all of our webinar content on our website, texasoncourse.org. Feel free to share our webinar with anyone, your colleagues, and additional resources that will find it helpful, and we'll go ahead and get started. So just a quick orientation of the Zoom platform in case you need to change your settings, then you can actively participate. The first box right here is your audio, where you can test to make sure that you can hear everything. All of our participants in the webinar are muted. We have set aside time for question and answer toward the end, and you can either ask those in person or we can unmute you if you'd like to ask those, or also put them in the chat box. And you can also input your question here. We'll make sure we get all of your questions answered. And then in the top right side of your screen, you can change your screen size for Zoom. So just a little bit about Texas OnCourse. Most of the educators that join our webinars are very familiar with Texas OnCourse resources, but if you're new to us, we'll just tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. Texas OnCourse is a state-funded initiative designed to improve college and career advising and readiness across the state. We provide free professional development and curriculum resources. So just kind of a quick update on our numbers. Today, Texas OnCourse has over 14,000 educators that are registered and actively using our academy. And those educators are represented in over 3,400 schools and campuses in over 965 districts across the state. So we've seen a lot of growth, which is very exciting. We also hit our goal of awarding 13,500 badges, which was in 2019, which is fantastic. We've seen a lot of growth in the use of our middle school curriculum guide. And also we've seen over 40,000 students do career exploration in Middle Galaxy, which is awesome. So I'm going to quickly go over our agenda for this morning. We will do some quick introductions. We have a couple of guest speakers and some staff that's joining us, so we'll do some quick introductions. The first one is going to be from Jamie Bell, who's going to spotlight some of the resources we have from our curriculum. And then we have Molly Gazin from Roadtrip Nation. We connected with Roadtrip Nation quite a few years ago, and we have some fantastic resources to share with you that are great for students. And then we have Lori Knight from the Texas Workforce Commission, who's going to talk a little bit about their resources for helping middle school students as well. And then we'll have time for Q&A and wrap up. We've saved an hour for the webinar. We don't always take the full hour, but we will make sure we close out by 11 a.m. this morning. And if we end earlier, that's just fine. So first, I'll just give a quick introduction of myself. My name's Laura Guggen, and I'm Assistant Director of Program Implementation here at Texas OnCourse. I've been here for a couple of years now, and I work directly with our fellows program and also our partners and schools that are implementing Texas OnCourse. And my background is in counseling and college and career planning. Jamie?
Hi, I'm Jamie Bell, and I'm the Curriculum and Instruction Manager. I've been here a couple of years as well now, and I work on revising, editing, creating content around our curriculum and middle school resources. And before that, I was in the classroom for 10 years as a 7th grade science teacher, and I wrote curriculum for my district.
Molly?
Hi everybody, my name is Molly and I work at Roadtrip Nation. I've been there for 10 years and we have a couple different education program offerings. So I work with all of our educators that implement the programs inside the classroom and outside of the classroom, and excited to show you guys more of what we have.
Lori, I'm going to unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. I'm Lori Knight. I manage the Education Outreach Team at the Texas Workforce Commission. I've been with the Commission now around 6 years, very close to 6 years. And prior to that, I was an educator and academic advisor at the collegiate level. And before that, I was in a high school classroom for a couple of years.
Great. Thanks to all our guest speakers for joining us this morning. And we're going to start with Jamie to spotlight some of our resources.
Yeah, so we have many resources that educate the educator as well as students and their families on career clusters and pathways. For today's webinar, I'll highlight resources such as lessons from the curriculum guide, references in the family guide, and Texas OnCourse Academy modules that support career pathways. Next. Yeah. So we're first spotlighting the curriculum guide lessons. You can find the guide by following the steps on the screen. So number one, once you go to our website, click tools, then select from the drop-down menu middle school curriculum guide, and then you register to receive the guide. So these are a few of the lessons that directly connect student learning to career pathways. You'll see we have about 5 that are a direct connection. For example, lesson 1.3, deep dive into my preferred career cluster, is after the students have done a jigsaw activity, learning about the different career clusters, they get to explore more of what they're interested in. Another example, Unit 2, Lesson 1.3, Space Journal, is using Middle Galaxy, and the students navigate through Middle Galaxy and record what information they find about specific careers and the related tasks that they're asked to do. So these are just a few of the lessons. I'll give you a second if you want to write them down or screenshot this. Okay. Next, yeah. So, however, all of our lessons help students begin to think about themselves as a professional and give them the time and space to envision where their skills and abilities will take them one day. For a quick summary of all of our lessons, you can download the curriculum guide from our website and go to the suggested implementation plan. This is a scope and sequence that provides lesson summaries that educators can quickly review to get an overview of the time and content of a lesson. And we've highlighted what that looks like here on the screen. The family guide connects the classroom to home. It includes conversation starters as well as identifying how endorsements can align with career pathways. Topics also surrounding career pathways, financial choices, paying for college, creating a graduation plan, and much more. The Texas OnCourse Academy also has modules related to career exploration. If you're new to the Academy, this is a free resource for all Texas educators. It provides on-demand professional learning on college and career advising topics. You can access the Academy on our website under Tools menu. Click Educator Login to create an account. There you go. So once you've logged in, you'll be in the Academy dashboard, which you see here, where you'll find a number of modules to study and review for information as well as resources. Today, we're looking at modules located in the Career Pathways section, which I've highlighted here. Yeah. Okay. Once you've clicked on the Career Pathways section, you'll see this screen. Here we've highlighted the Foundational Knowledge for Career Pathways module. And I think a highlight is going to pop up. Career Pathways, and then that's the module we're in. Okay, next. Under the academic planning category, you'll also find a module on career clusters, pathways, and endorsements. So that's how you navigate. Here are some additional Academy modules that can be used as preparation or to pull additional learning resources for students that align with career pathways. So we have basic principles of post-secondary pathways, researching post-secondary options, career assessments, and high school personal graduation plan. For more information, you can find it on the Texas OnCourse website. For the educator, so you'll select the educator tab, choose the role that you want to find additional resources for. Teachers will find information and lessons. Administrators can find more information about accountability and CCMR. And now I'm going to turn it over to
Great. Yeah, thank you, Jamie. I just wanted to, before we turn it over to our friends at Roadtrip Nation, I want to mention just a few resources that Roadtrip Nation developed specifically for Texas students with the support of Texas OnCourse. So those resources include a really cool 4-episode documentary featuring Texas high school students that get to travel the state in search of their futures. They also include a series of short 2 to 3 minute long videos covering topics like choosing high school courses when you're in middle school and also developing good study habits. These videos are really great for the classroom. So Molly, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Hello, everybody. So yes, great introduction, and we'll go more into the documentary that was filmed with our Texas students and how to access that and some further resources. But first, a little overview video of what Roadtrip Nation is, and we'll go ahead and press play on this video and I'll give you some insight.
Mike, Nate, and Brian were 3 friends who were graduating from school but still didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives. They decided to buy an old rundown RV, paint it bright green, and take off across the country. What they were really looking for was guidance and advice on what they should do with their lives. So on the road, they met with all kinds of amazing people they looked up to. And they just asked them, how did you get to where you are today? Ever since that first road trip, the keys to the green RV had been passed on to generation after generation of road trippers, all wanting to gain insights about their futures. And now, hundreds of people have shared with us how they were able to build lives around their passions and the things that they're truly interested in. This is Roadtrip Nation.
Cool. Alrighty, great. So a little overview of what Roadtrip Nation is. Here's our original RV that you're looking at, the first road trip that was done 20 years ago by our 3 founders that set off across the country after they graduated college and had no idea what they wanted to do with their lives. So went out there and talked to people that they were interested in. So we've created a vast archive of all of these interviews from the past 20 years of people out there that are living lives that they love with careers that they love. So if we can go to the next slide, we've boiled everything down to kind of 3 main themes throughout these interviews that we've done over the years. And it's let go, define, and become. So let go is the first one. And that's really teaching students how to let go of what we call the noise. So students will fine tune the process of self-exploration by identifying how the noise has affected them. And they'll be able to articulate how shedding the noise will help them create a new definition of themselves during finding out what their interests are. And so we have kind of multiple ways for students to do this, which I'll show you one of the ways in just a second. But the first step is letting go. And then we move into define. And so that's kind of the bulk of what Roadtrip Nation is, and what Roadtrip Nation promotes is helping students figure out what are their core interests. And so that's all about listening to themselves after they kind of let go of that noise and can listen to themselves. So this video is about the importance of defining your own interests.
Lesson 3, define. Now that you've started identifying and stripping away the noise in your life, you'll get back to a blank canvas. From there, you can start building a life on your own terms. But where do you start? Brace yourself, because we're going to say something a little controversial. Stop thinking about the future in terms of an occupation.
Hello, and welcome to your career day. Today is your chance to learn how to conform to what everyone else wants you to be. So many exciting career opportunities await. Your new job is waiting. Don't miss out. Just remember to bring your resume.
A lot of people will tell you to narrow down your options, find an occupation, and reverse engineer your way into it. Instead, we believe the journey should open up possibility, not shut them down.
Someone told me this analogy once, that there are 2 ways that you can think about your career. One is a paint by numbers approach. You go about it systematically. Like, all right, I need to paint the 1's red, 2's yellow, 3's blue. And you know what the picture is going to be, and you're just kind of going at it. That's kind of the path of least resistance. I kind of like the other way, connect the dots approach, where you start off with one idea or a conviction, something that really grabs you. And then you take the next logical step. You're not sure what the picture is going to look like when you're in the beginning phases, but as you proceed at the end, you gain speed and you see suddenly it's like the circus seal with the ball. The picture is continually developing.
With every step you take, you grow, gain experience, develop skills, and see more than you could before. When you treat career exploration as expansive, your future is flexible, and it's determined by who you are. Time and time again, we've talked to leaders with incredible jobs that had no idea they'd end up there when they first started on their path.
Did you imagine that you'd be sitting here as like the director of communications for such an awesome agency?
Oh my gosh, no.
I feel like, I'm at the forefront of developing new candy products. And it's like, I never thought I would be doing that. You just never know. You need to be open.
We've talked to jelly bean flavor scientists, Cartoon Network execs, UFC journalists, but these people didn't start out knowing they'd become those things because they aren't jobs you can necessarily anticipate ahead of time.
If I were to give one piece of advice, I'd say figure out some subject you love. I think it's terribly wrong to go the other way around, which is to define career in terms of jobs. I think your career should be defined in terms of interests.
You guys all know already the things inside of you that you feel when something is in harmony or is going right. You know it. I mean, it's like, it's giddy. It makes you feel like you're getting away with something. It makes you feel like you're playing. People might call it work. For some people, going into an office is playing, you know? For some people, designing a 50-story building is playing.
When you follow your interests, chances are you'll end up doing something even better than you could have planned. Right now, you might be panicking, thinking, wait, I don't know what I'm interested in. That's okay. In fact, that's good. You're exploring. Rather than looking at college majors or careers and saying, am I interested in that? What are you interested in already? Start small. What do you like doing in your free time? What is that you do on the weekends? What is it that you can't shut up about? For now, don't stress over whether it's something you think could turn into a job. And even if you have multiple interests, that's okay.
I am a dancer and a visual artist, but when I got to college, I was also really interested in kind of exploring the social, cultural world, so I ended up being an American Studies major. Now I'm kind of trying to figure out the way to integrate a lot of interest. I'm just kind of trying to figure out how to kind of do this with all of these.
I think that there's a lot of creativity to be found at the intersection of domains. Like, you know, I love computer science and I love circus. Okay, what sort of weird things can come out of those two things combined? You know, I mean, we're sort of exploring that. We started building interactive art.
Most of the leaders we met didn't just follow one interest. They found interesting ways to combine all the things that they like into one career. There's all kinds of interesting and surprising ways we've seen leaders combine their interests, like sports plus technology to start an innovative sports company, travel plus business to become a tourist consultant. Dad Abu Rad combined his interests of science and music to become a podcast host.
I wanted to be a film scorer, but I think I'm doing that now, weirdly, but I would never have known that this is actually the job I was imagining. I didn't somehow have the tools to imagine forward far enough.
Or check out Irene Aguilar, who combined her interest in activism and medicine to become a state senator.
I learned how healthcare was financed in the United States, and it really made me angry. It really motivated me to want to try and change it.
By combining your interests, you open yourself up to more personalized possibilities. We have a tool on our site called Roadmap that's a great place to start exploring these combinations for yourself. First, select a foundation. You can think of this as how you'd like to engage with your interests, or as the foundational similarity between your interests. Then, by selecting multiple interests, you can see all the leaders in our archive that match with you. Fill it out as many times as you want. Try out multiple combinations and see all the different careers that these interests led people to. Once you've identified some of your top interests, think about ways to start engaging with them. Are there podcasts you could be listening to? People you should be following on Instagram? Maybe you could join a club, attend a lecture, sign up for a class, or talk to a career counselor about what majors match up with those interests. But one of the best ways to get a sense of how to build a life around your interests is to take a page out of Roadtrip Nation's book. Go talk to the people who are actually doing it. Because no matter what you're into, it's likely someone out there is already making a living from it. In the next video, we'll walk you through everything you need to know to set up and conduct a Roadtrip Nation style interview.
All right, so that video all about define. So I'll show you how to access our roadmap tool, which will help students on that path to figure out what they're interested in. And then the last slide we have is become. So that's all about putting it into action. So what have the students learned and how can they get out there and start talking to people with that interest. So I will go ahead and go to roadtripnation.com where you guys can find a lot of these free resources that we have. And one of the first places, if we go up to road trips and then click on watch, this is where you'll be able to access the Room to Grow documentary. If we scroll down and there's Room to Grow. So we have our different episodes with that. You're able to click into that and watch the different episodes. So we had 4 sets of 3 teams from Northwest Texas, South Central, Northeast, and Southeast. And these are students in Texas that are figuring out what they're interested in, talking to all different types of leaders out there in Texas, from the campaign manager to an air traffic control watch supervisor to a teacher to some students that are enrolled in different universities in Texas. And all of this is free to watch, so highly encourage to get an idea of what Roadtrip Nation is all about in the Texas way is to watch these episodes. And then the last tool that I'll show you guys, if we scroll up to the top and click on career exploration, and then the roadmap. So this is what the video was was talking about. Students will be able to access this tool for free. So the first thing that they do is pick an interest. So here you can scroll down and see all these different interests. So the student can pick one of these, and we can pick, we'll scroll up and we can pick engineering. And then the next thing they do is pick another interest. So they'll scroll through all of these again, and we can pick, we'll go down and pick science. And then after here is picking a foundation. So what lights a student up at their core, we'll pick for this one, building things. So once the students do this roadmap, they'll get some results of people that we've interviewed. And you can see here, there's all different types of people, different careers that match the student's specific roadmap. So this one's engineering, science, and building things. And the students will get a chance to go in and watch these different leaders' interviews, learn more about their journey, how they got to where they are. So this is a first place that I would have students kind of start if they're interested in figuring out interests and what's out there. They can do this roadmap as many times as they want and pick different interests, different foundations, and be able to access all of these interviews that will give the students kind of an idea of what's out there and really widening that lens of figuring out different types of careers. So that's all on roadtripnation.com. And thank you guys for your time.
Great, Molly. Thank you so much. Those are awesome resources. I will also say we got a chance to show the documentary at some high schools across the state of Texas, and we got great responses from the students that got to see the documentary from Texas, and it was really cool and very exciting to see that process and just get to see the students exposed to that. It was very, very cool. So thank you, Molly. We're going to turn it over to Lori Knight from the Texas Workforce Commission.
Thank you so much, Laura. And I'm just so energized by everything that Molly was talking about, because I think it leads in beautifully with what we're talking about next, which is why careers should matter to middle schoolers specifically. So our team within the Education Outreach Team for Texas Workforce Commission, we have the privilege of being able to travel across the state and get into schools to work not only with the teachers and counselors, but specifically with the students. And what we've discovered in the last 6 years of this work is that the biggest need that we've seen for many middle school students specifically is just to get the time to do self-exploration. There's schools and districts that will have career fairs, and usually they're focused on the older students to do that. But the middle school students don't always have the opportunity to attend career fairs with focus. So they're usually just there to kind of learn about everything, because they really are the clean slates when it comes to career exploration and knowledge, right? Because they don't necessarily have had the opportunity to experience the world of work in any real way, other than, what they hear from, family. But they also, they just may not have a lot of knowledge about what's available out there. So self-exploration in addition to career exploration, I think, is highly important to middle school students, and specifically how can they tie their interest or their natural talents and skills and abilities to something that could lead them into an actual viable career. If you can scroll to the next one. When we go into campuses, usually that's step number one is that when we're going to talk specifically to middle school students is we want to give them the opportunity to actually do some of that self-exploration. And so we'll show them several different assessments. We have several different kinds that we show them, but these are probably the three main ones we focus on. We'll use Map My Grad specifically for helping 8th graders to kind of figure out how their interests can align to endorsements. But then if they're looking just for overall kind of how do I link the things I'm interested in or what I'm willing or unwilling to do, Texas Genuine is one good resource for that. And then Texas Career Check, which is the TWC tool that has a larger self-assessment tied within it. But before we start having conversations about labor market data, in-demand occupations in their areas, or just jobs overall that are available in the state, we start with the work of allowing them to do that self-exploration first. So why do we do this? If you can click forward one more time. Everyone on our team, we're previous educators. And so we know that essentially kids only know what they know, especially about careers. And so that means what they've been told, whether it's in a classroom or in their home, or what they experience personally. So jobs that mom and dad or uncles and aunts and friends have, or what they've seen movies or television or read about in books. And so we understand that we're working with a demographic of student who just has limited knowledge. And so that's why it's important that we allow them to first do exploration, because then they can start to at least gain knowledge. If nothing else, it's just learning new job titles. And then we kind of help them figure all that out. So because they only know what they know, though, when we're starting out with them, when we talk to kids about their career interests, their goals, their pathways, and what they're looking at, we discovered that it really didn't matter the age of the student. I mean, we've worked with kids as young as pre-K. We work with students as old as adults in high school. But when we ask about their long-term plans or their interests, we discovered we were getting the same 15 to 20 responses from students of all ages in every neck of the woods across the state of Texas. So, you know, everybody is looking at those high dollar, high profile, popular, most commonly known occupations like doctor, lawyer, dentist, vet, teachers, police officers, firefighters, video game designers, professional athletes, musicians, actors and actresses. Sometimes we would get people who had specifics. They're looking at anesthesiology, they're looking at cardiac surgeons, they're looking at, you know, neurosurgeons, again, because they're looking at, you know, the six-figured salaries that are connected to these things, but they're not really looking at and learning these occupations or occupation titles or information about them because it has in any way a connection to what gives them satisfaction, right, or what brings them fulfillment in life. And so if you could move forward to the next one, Laura, thank you. So what we've discovered is that when we start to talk to kids about, you know, here are the occupations that are actually in demand, either in your region or all across the state of Texas, how those might connect to things that you're interested in based on the assessment that you just took, and how, like, you're able to sustain yourself in a life. Like, you don't necessarily have to make six figures to live a comfortable life, right? But then when we juxtapose that with the information that students have or the occupations that they are seriously considering and investing time and money and energy in to get training or educated in, because they're like, I'm going to be a lawyer because everybody said I should be a lawyer, right? It creates these large gaps. And so there's, you know, expectations from the student, the job seeker's perspective, but there's also gaps in expectations between a job that is actually available and the workforce who has the skills to fill it. And then there's also gaps within, you know, whether or not the student is building soft skills, marketable skills, those transferable skills that are useful in any industry, really. So it's just creating a lot of gaps between, you know, the expectation, but then the actual reality. Laura, if you can hit one more time. Thank you. So most folks, when we're doing professional development sessions, right, and we're having these real hard conversations with teachers and counselors or even parents, and we're talking about, you know, these gaps that are created, the fact that there is a skill gap we're anticipating to have in the state of Texas, and we may not have the employers or the employees available to fill those gaps, and it's because everybody's trying to be doctors and lawyers, but there may not necessarily be a demand for that in, you know, the particular areas of where they live. And everybody always asks, so how do we fix this? And my answer is always knowledge and education and data, usually. So if we move to the next screen, Laura. What we like to do, our team, when we're going out and we're talking to students, we're talking to them about labor market trends. We're talking to them about the demand, not just the demand for occupation title, but demand for specific skills in areas. We're talking to them about all of the pathways available at the post-secondary arena, not just the bachelor's degree. Although it works for some, it's not needed for every occupation. It just really depends on what is driving that student. So if they can identify the things that they're truly interested in and what they're naturally talented in, the things that fulfill them in life, it may lead them to an occupation that doesn't require a bachelor's degree. So we try to talk to them about all of the pathways available beyond high school. We talk to them about occupation titles, just to help them kind of build that knowledge, turning talents and interests into careers. We also use one of our most popular tools with them to kind of help them identify what is the lifestyle I want to have, and based on that lifestyle, how much money do I need to earn as a salary every year to sustain that lifestyle, and which occupations connect to that kind of salary. So we're giving them a lot of information to hopefully help them close those gaps. Can you go to the next? Thank you. The obvious motivation for our team to go out and talk to middle schoolers, and I think the obvious motivation for educators to talk to middle schoolers about careers and pathways is our, you know, the House Bill 5 that passed in 2013 that required 8th graders to select one of 5 endorsements before moving on to 9th grade. But I think that's the low-hanging fruit. If we can move to the next slide, I think this is what the real motivation should be, is that we're going to help all middle schoolers be career ready. And part of that is to help them kind of explore. And I think the reason why it's so important, and Molly, when she showed us the video on letting go and defining, it really spoke to me, because when they're talking about the noise that kids have to deal with when making these career decisions, that noise doesn't usually come to a child until around the high school level, right? When they're in middle school, they're still young enough, and they don't have to necessarily deal with the ins and outs every day of figuring out bills and what is a bill and what does it mean to work. And I have all of these like huge responsibilities in my life, and maybe, you know, some kids in high school are working. Middle schoolers aren't dealing with that. And again, they're that clean slate, so they don't have a lot of that noise that they have to kind of get through before they can really touch base with what's in their inner self and their interests and explorations and things that they're naturally drawn to. So I think that is an even bigger motivation, and having those conversations and getting kids to start building blocks of being career ready becomes easier if we start them in middle school than if we wait until they're in high school. All right, so the next screen. If we can start having these conversations about helping kids define careers and all of the options and everything available to them post-secondary, I think everybody benefits. It's a win-win for everybody, but most especially the students. Because if they can identify those careers or those, even just the industries they're interested in at a younger age, they can start thinking about internship opportunities. They can leverage work-based learning opportunities that they have available to them in high school in a much more meaningful and I think relevant way, especially intentional. So they can be much more intentional in using the knowledge that they have and building upon that. So, and I also think that if they're considering the local labor market data, then it benefits the community, because the kids that are getting educated, that are building these amazing and wonderful skills, get to stay within their communities rather than having to spread out either across the state or leave the state of Texas in order to leverage the skills that they're learning. On to the next screen, please. So the message from our team is it's never too early. Middle school is the perfect opportunity to start, again, because they don't have the noise. And so it's, again, never too early to start. Now, if you have students who don't have Wi-Fi access at home to use tools to do the research, our our department, our office has a 1-800 number. It's available. It's on the screen right here. It's our career hotline. And students can call this hotline 24 hours a day, 7 days out of the week. It's automated. And they can leave us their name and address, physical address, and let us know 3 occupations they're interested in. And we do the legwork of doing the research for them, and we will mail them an occupation summary report for each of the occupations they're interested in. And we can also get them information on institutions of higher learning from across the nation, whether it's public, private, or a for-profit school. We can get information to them, and we send it to them, and it's a free service provided by the Workforce Commission. So we generally get anywhere from 9,000 to 13,000 students a year who call us on this hotline. So it is widely used. So I just encourage, if you have students who may not want to talk to you, may not have the time to talk to a counselor, or just don't have Wi-Fi access at home, they can still get career information from us for free through that hotline. So definitely encourage them to reach out to us in that way. I just want to say thank you for your time and the work that you do with students every day.
Oh, thank you so much, Lori. That was just a great overview of so many fantastic resources, starting with Jamie and reviewing some of the lessons we have through Texas OnCourse. We have a lot of folks and educators that use Roadtrip Nation, either through our website or through Roadtrip Nation directly. So Molly, it was awesome to see those videos. I agree with you, Lori. It's totally inspiring to see those kinds of stories. And then also the TWC resources are just invaluable. So many thanks to our guest speakers. And I want to be conscious of our time, and also allow some time for questions. So we thought it would be easier before we turn it over to questions. I know we've covered a lot in the webinar. And I just kind of want to summarize to remind you of 3 things that you can do now to support your middle school students on career exploration. So the first one is just to download our middle school curriculum guide. And that's the link right there. And I'm going to go ahead and put that directly in the chat box. Awesome. So Tama from our marketing team went ahead and added that. So that link is right there. And Lori, thank you so much for adding Texas Career Check. That is really helpful. And like I said, we will also add these resources and links to our follow-up email. So there's your first step, to go ahead and download the curriculum. And I'm just going to give you all a few minutes if you would like to do that right now. It'll probably open up another window, but we're not in a huge rush. So I'll give you a couple of minutes and then give you your second step. Awesome. Thank you, Molly, for sharing the road trip link. Okay, and then the second one is to register for the Texas OnCourse Academy and review the career exploration modules. You can get in there and explore, take a look at the directory, different topics we have based on what you do as an educator, and then you'll have access to our free professional development. And then the third one is just to check out the Roadtrip Nation resources for Texas students. And there's another link to Roadtrip. And we'll make sure to, I think you should have all of the links now in the chat box if you want to open those up. Great. I can always go back to this slide if anyone needs me to, but I do want to open it up for questions. I think it's probably easiest if you have any questions for any of our guest speakers or on our content, please go ahead and type your questions in the chat box. We have a few minutes to do that. Well, if you think of any questions while we're still on our webinar, we have a few minutes. I just want to give you a couple of announcements. Here we have webinars that run through the end of the school year. And the next one is on effective advising, reducing implicit bias when working with students. So making sure you're providing access and equity in your student programs, in your schools, and in your districts. There's a lot of research on implicit bias right now. So we will be having that webinar on April 7th. We'll give you a registration link in our follow-up email. And then on May 5th is implementing the middle school curriculum guide to improve college, career, and military readiness. CCMR, which is part of our A through F accountability system here in Texas. So we'll do sort of a deeper dive in how the middle school curriculum guide will improve your CCMR indicators and better prepare your middle school students for high school and beyond. So those are our upcoming webinars. And if there are any other questions, please take a minute and put those in. Once again, I want to thank our guest speakers for some just phenomenal information, and also for the over 175 our YouTube channel and on our website under our monthly webinar series. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.